Hi guys, and welcome back to another episode of Rebuilding Bolton, the Analysis Days. So, you know the drill. We're going to have a little look through the squad, have a little look through some of the stats, see if we can maybe find any potential signings, maybe even by looking at the stats. It's nice to be in this position for once, so we can actually do that sort of thing. So that's exactly what we are going to try and do here. Have a look through the squad, have a look through the stats, and then do a little bit of a comparison, see if we can find any gaps in us as well. So, first things first, Wendy Lacazette-Roche, as you can see, obviously he missed the playoff final, because of course he did, but we did it in his absence, and I'm glad for that. And he will be with us next year. I hope. My concern is that Chelsea might cancel the loan because we're going to get promoted. Well, we are promoted. So we might lose the affiliate part with Chelsea, which is likely because we're in the same division. However, the reason I got the loan in earlier is because I wanted to see if that would maybe negate that to the point where we do actually get to keep him for one more year on a free loan, but we'll have to see. So I think he's been stellar this year, quite frankly. Very, very good performances all around from Wendy Lacazette-Roche. I mean, he's just a very good defender. It's only his bravery, really, that's been an issue, frankly. I think that's probably the only weak point in his game up to this point. He's so unbelievably good in all the other areas, and I'm obviously going to be looking to try and bring in players like him this summer, potentially, on permanence. Now, obviously not Wendy, because the sheer amount of money it would cost would be ludicrous, and I want to try to keep, unless I find someone that's absolutely a complete don, then I'm not going to be obviously bringing those kind of players in. You know, you just can't. But nevertheless, good season from him. Henry Lawrence, he's been pushed down the pecking order a little bit at times this year, but has still done well. I think particularly in the second half of the year, once it became very clear that Mata wasn't going to be coming back. So as a result of that, I love that they think he's a right back. Like, what an I wish this stuff would... I know I constantly complain about this, but it's so annoying that it uses this to base his bloody comparison off of. Like, why? So yeah, Henry Lawrence, a central midfielder. Also, I wish just changing this would change the comparison, but there you go. I know there's another menu where you can do that, but whatever. So yeah, 5 goals, 3 assists. He's certainly overperformed his XG. I think Lawrence has been solid for us this year, and at the end of the day, he's worth £6 million. We've got a lot of good assets at the club, which will certainly help us, I've got to say. So, Sonny Low-Everton, of course, I've extended his loan for next year too, and I think he deserves it, to be fair. 13 goals this season and 7 assists. That is a big step up. Like, he contributed 12 goals last year in all competitions. This year... Oh, because it's the playoffs. So actually, yeah, he's contributed over 20 this season and has definitely had his best year for us so far. And I'm really... Probably the best year of his career, arguably. I mean, you could sort of think of the Rochdale one, but for me, playing in the Championship is definitely a step above that. So, super duper pleased for Low-Everton. Be happy to have him back next year. The combination of him and O, I think, is a really strong one. Peter Lostak, despite missing a lot of the season, he still managed to rack up 5 goals and 5 assists this year. Despite missing a lot of the season with a broken ankle, only started 10 games for us. And yet, those are some big numbers that he's actually put up in a very short space of time. So, very, very pleased for Peter Lostak. And I really do like this guy, to be honest. I just think there's issues with... I don't know. I don't think he's ever going to be perfect for us, but it's just nice to have around. You know, he's just a nice player to have around. Charlie McPherson, obviously we know very little about him. He's been out on loan. Or has he? I don't think he has, actually. Maybe Sligo Rovers, I think. Rashawn Mathurin, similar story. Michelle Miller, of course, only played 1 substitute appearance. Trying to skip players that we just don't really talk about that much. So, O has only started 17 games, but he's netted 8 times for us this year. And that's a solid response. He's only 19 years old. I like this guy so much, and I really do feel like long-term he's going to be fantastic for us in that role. And I want to see what he can do there, of course, because he's played a little bit deeper too. So this is the key thing for me. You know, he actually... Whoa, 41 club... What? Sorry, hang on. Oh, it's because of the substitute appearances. 10 goals, 3 assists, though. When he's a bit deeper, he just doesn't play as well, which is kind of, you know, not too surprising, really, when you look at how he doesn't really have the passing ability to play in that position. Great vision, though, and I'm really excited to see what he can do in the future. So I love me a bit of O. Guy Porteous. Again, another fairly good season for him. 5 goals, 13 assists this year for Porteous. That is a big step up, really. It's a very different style of play from him this year, but it's definitely the best year he's had in his entire career. Contributing to, well, so what was it, 14 goals there, 14 goals there. This year it's been 17 goals that he's contributed to, so it's definitely a step in the right direction. His average ratings have gone up. He's added way more assists to his game. A few less goals, but again, he's had some injuries as well at times, and I think the creativity of him has been much, much better this year, and he's come up with some very important ones too, so I can't really knock him for that. Temunushkov, what a man. 26 goals in the league this year. He's got 80 league goals for Bolton. Now, I don't think we'll get into 100 next year, probably. He does have a new contract. I am concerned that we may still have to look for another striker at some point, but you can't argue with his performances for us over the last 3 seasons. It's been phenomenal, really. 39 and 38. The 18 in 42 obviously was a struggling season. And this year, he scored 5 more goals in 4 less matches. So it's definitely been a step in the right direction. But I think it's just because we've been able to get goals from other areas. Having someone like Low-Everton chip in with 13 goals this season, and Critcho Noble chipping in with 8, has really taken a little bit of the pressure off of someone like Temunushkov. And he's had injuries too. Carlo Ziga. I still really like Carlo Ziga. He's a bit of a comedy character, but I do kind of love the guy a lot. I mean, 41 goals conceded in 46 ain't bad. 19 clean sheets this year. He was certainly up there. The guy made some extraordinary stops this season and also made some absolute howlers. And that's kind of one of the reasons we love old Carlo Ziga. At some point, he will have to not be our goalkeeper anymore. But honestly, right now, I don't see it as being that big of an issue, probably. Regan Booty, what can I say? I think I said all I could really say about Regan Booty in the last actual video, to be honest. Just an absolute god. And obviously, we're going to look to bring in other players potentially as younger for backup. But honestly, Regan Booty, I'm happy to start him as our wing-back in the Premier League next year. I genuinely am, because I feel like he deserves the chance to prove himself. James Bree, I would say it's a similar story with Bree, and I do love him, but I think what he really does is he makes a kind of template for what we could potentially look for in that role. And now that we're going to have more scouting and more money available, I think it's only a matter of time before we find the player for that inverted wing-back role. But I think James Bree has definitely been the best we've had yet. Ryan Cassidy, I've been extremely happy with what we've got out of Ryan Cassidy this year. We're only paying him $5,000 a week. We got him on a free transfer. He's netted 7 goals so far, despite only starting 6 games for us this season. I think he's an extremely reliable backup striker for us right now, and I'm extremely happy with him. I think I felt so much safer with Kun Temenushkov out the team, knowing that Ryan Cassidy could come in. I just didn't get that same feeling with Graham Goldston around, unfortunately. Cassidy's just so much more reliable. He scored very important goals. I think he's got at least 2 game-winning goals to his name, which that alone has been worth it. I'd happily pay the money just for that. Leighton Clarkson, he's only started 1 game. It was in the FA Cup against Chelsea. He got run ragged in that match, and he's only really gone off the bench 16 times after that. It just feels like he probably won't ever make it here. But hey, I still feel like potentially the sell-on money, I think there's something definitely for Leighton Clarkson. It just might not be here. Ramoni Critchlow-Noble, I mean, like I said, I don't know what more I could say about him other than what I already said in the last video, but he's been excellent this season. 8 goals. That's a lot for a centre-back. He really has. Not since the days of the early kind of... Oh, God, who was it? It was Kai Knight, I think, for either Notts County, or it might have been Whitport, who was just banging headers in constantly. So, yeah, he was definitely up there for me. Ryan De Silva, I'm glad we made the deal to bring Ryan De Silva in. Even though I don't think he was particularly special, he definitely was useful to have around the club for that period of time, because he could play in a multitude of positions, and it definitely helped us out from time to time. And he did get a couple of assists. Rody de Boer, I mean, he barely played any games, but he is worth a lot of money. So there's that. Akinfenmewo didn't score this year. I would have liked to have seen a goal out of him potentially, and I think he probably deserved one given the effort he's put in. But from a defensive standpoint, very, very happy with Akinfenmewo. Made a couple of bad decisions. I think it was a penalty he gave away against Reading that I still think was a bit harsh on us. It happens. But particularly watching back when I was editing that, I was very surprised at how little there actually was to somehow give away a penalty there, but whatever. He's worth a lot of money too, which is fantastic. But I do think that a younger player, perhaps, over time will eventually slowly overtake him. But right now, I'm happy to start next season in the Premier League with Lacazette, Roche-Firmino and Critchlow-Noble. That's one of the strongest parts of our team. Ryan Giles, I feel like he'll probably leave at some point. He doesn't want to be here because he was complaining about not getting... At the end of the day, if Regan Booty's keeping you out of the team, mate, that's on you. I'm sorry, but you need to be better then, don't you? He just didn't perform very well for us. Graham Goldston, limited opportunities this year. I feel like a loan spell for him next year is very, very much on the cards, particularly it's the last year of his contract. I want to see what he can do, but he needs to do it for someone else at the moment. Charlie Good, less game time this year. He is a bit unhappy about that, but I feel like maybe he could leave. I don't know. He's 29 years old, and I feel like I could possibly swap him out for someone who's decent, but not ready to start yet, but has the potential to go beyond him. And that's kind of where I want to go with those. So now that we've got the money to do it. Niall John, who will be coming back next year. I thought I'd just do it anyway, because I have been... It's hard to say with Niall John. I feel like there's definitely a good player there. We just don't see enough of it a lot of the time. His performances haven't been spectacular, really. He's scored exactly based on his XG, which I feel like I would have liked to have seen a bit more out of him. It's because he scored those 2 goals against Sunderland, and I was like, oh, is this the season of Niall John? And then he just, didn't score any more. He got 1 more much later in the year, so it was a bit of a false dawn. Daniel Kemp didn't play any games for us this year. I think there's almost 0 opportunities for him left at the club, sadly, although we did have that one okay season. And we're back to Wendy. Right, let's check out some stats. So possession-wise, we're up towards the top. It's no surprise that Stoke's at the top, because Scott Parker's their manager, and, well, you know what Fulham are like. So there's that. Headers 1. We really don't like headers, do we? Jesus. Despite having a lot of tall boys, it's just not the way we play, I guess. We do need to get better at that. Noel John's basically responsible for half of those, I'd say. Headers 1 ratio, though, is at least sort of mid-table. Not the best, not the worst. Yellow cards, though, we're barely committing any fouls, which is great. Wow, Brentford just don't want to foul anybody, do they? Sunderland, though, dirty bunch, it would seem. Red cards, despite that, we've had 3 red cards. We're a bit of a weird one like that. We barely commit enough fouls to get any yellow cards, but every now and then a player will just do something stupid for no reason. Very odd. One of the highest PPGs. It's so strange that Palace... Hang on, what? How can Palace have a higher PPG? Oh, of course, because the playoffs weigh a lot of these teams down, don't they? That's hilarious. Fourth highest PPG. Didn't even make the playoffs. Cheers, lads. Attacking-wise, Birmingham were the best. 94 goals. We got 92, though. Wow, it's weird. Birmingham were the top scorers in the division and didn't go up. Crazy. Points... Oh, actually, what we're looking for here, expected goals per game. So we're certainly up towards the top, and we massively overachieved on that one. But you tend to when you go to the very tops of leagues. All these teams very much overachieved on that one, I would say. So fourth in goals scored. So, you know, unless our defence is really, really good on the expected one, it almost feels like we overachieved a little bit this season. Oh, we did in many ways. Penalties taken, 10. Wow, we only had 3, but we did score them all. That's the main thing. Cross completion, a decent effort, up towards the top. 17 goals from court. Wow. That's genuinely very high. I've been crying out for us to be a bit better from set pieces for years now, and this is just the season where that has broken through. My God, 17! That is actually extraordinarily high. Particularly, and I should point this out, I've not changed our attacking corner tactic at any point during this save, other than when we first set it up. So this year, it just seems to have been the delivery's been there, the defences haven't been able to help with it, and maybe we just had better players on the end of it. It's not some magical thing. This is what I mean about FM. Sometimes you just have these seasons. Goals and direct free kicks. Obviously, ours is none. In fact, wow, look at that. Villa and Forest with 4 each. Indirect free kicks, though, 6. That's not bad. 23 goals from set pieces. And 26 if you include pens. That's a really good outcome from set pieces for us this season. Pass completion, solid. Not too bad. Take that. Chances created. Wow. This is the thing. I don't really care so much about chances created anymore because I'm less looking at just chances created stats. I'm more looking at our overall XG, and I feel like that's a much better judgment call on stuff like this. Chances seem to be a bit strange as to what... Like, chances are very finite. It's a singular thing, whereas XG is much more granular. I think it gives you a better idea. Shots for, though... Well, we don't shoot that much either compared to some of the others, but our shots on target is a decent amount. Our ratio, the best. That's a good sign. Conversion rate, not bad either. Huddersfield's conversion rate was solid. If they could just shoot more, I think they'd be all right. Shots per game, we're not even at the highest on that one. We just seem to take high quality shots. I'd be more interested on shots on target per game. That's probably a more reasonable stat for me. Dribbles per game. We're not there, but we're up there. I mean, we have turned off run at defence, so that's probably part of the reason. Possession lost. Wow, look at that. We already knew that was going to be the case because of the way we played, but that's just how it goes. I mean, Burnley's defence is vastly better than ours. Like, that much we know. I mean, look at that. 14 goals conceded less than anyone else. That's why they were so good this year. Expected goals against, though, second best in the league. I mean, we actually conceded only, like, a few more goals than we were expected to. So, second best defence in the league. Expected-wise, second best defence. We basically nailed it. I actually think that coming third is about right for us when we were second best defence and the fourth best attack as far as expected. So I'll probably take that, to be honest. Conceded from corners, how were we on that one? 6. Yeah, not too bad. Could have been worse. Could have been Colchester, of course. Direct free kicks, none. That's a good sign. Indirect free kicks, of course, we're going to be down here with 6. I could never seem to defend those properly. Clean sheets, though, certainly up there. Not too bad. That's what you want to see. Fouls made, not that really relevant. Anything interesting in here at all? Shots on target against. Wow. We faced that's a really good sign. Something that I really like about us is how few shots on target we actually concede. And I think what that means is it's sometimes more frustrating and it can get a bit under your skin when you do concede because it feels like you're conceding off of every shot a lot of the time. And obviously that's not the case. It's just that when you limit them to so few shots on target, it means they have to create really good chances in order to get those shots on target a lot of the time. And that means that there's a higher opportunity, there's a higher chance of actually conceding when they get into those positions. So that's why it feels. But obviously at the time, you don't really care about that. You're just like, oh my God. So attendance-wise, 24,000. That's not bad, is it at all? Salary per annum. I mean, look at this. We've just got promoted with a salary of 5 million a year. Where are the other teams that went up? Burnley, 43 million a year. West Ham, 51 million a year. Like, we're spending nearly 10 times less than West Ham. And just chilling. Our finances are only okay at the moment. Net transfer spend. Swansea spent nearly £12 million. We spent £1 million. Obviously, Villa earned £50 million because of their relegation and whatnot. And West Ham, you know, they've earned £42 million as well. But still, as for players, Keenan Pirich, the Derby keeper, is the only player to have played in all 49 available league matches if you include the playoffs. Even Ziga didn't manage that. He had some injuries. Low Everton and Booty, though, with 46 each, is pretty impressive still. So that certainly helped. The consistency of Booty this year has been absolutely ludicrous. Yellow cards, Ben Gibson with 15. Anyone on there for us? No, that's a good sign. Red cards, Lostak. Oh, of course he did get that random red card, didn't he? So strange. Milo Rashika, not a huge surprise there, but Regan Booty with 9. That's insane. Temunushkov with 6. Regan Booty deserves that as well. Distance cover per 90 minutes. Usually we don't have players on this, but I am going to keep an eye out for any kind of regions that I might see of interest in here. Mika Hanna. So he's that Birmingham City striker. Interesting. Young, English. He's been certainly scoring a decent number of goals. 29 this year. Interesting. That's certainly someone worth paying attention to. And there's also Danny Quinn, who set up that goal in the playoff final there. So another player. Oh, he's on loan from Liverpool. Okay. Still. No, not get analyst report. Get scout report. I'm curious about someone like him. Maybe we could loan a player like that were the opportunity to arise. I don't think we'd really need to. I don't want to rely too much on loans next year, but unless we absolutely have to. Regan Booty lost more possession than anyone else in the entire league by an absolutely insane margin. Like, that is a ludicrous amount. And yet, it doesn't matter, does it, really, in the grand scheme of things? Goals. Arvin Apaya, 40 goals this season. That's up there. That must be one of the highest ever for a championship player. 26, though, for Temunushkov ain't bad, is it, really? Any regen players? Jamie West of West Ham. But they're going up with us, so that's pretty... And he's on loan. Anyway, Ryan Noble. On loan from anyone? No. Plays for Reading. Finishing isn't spectacular, but he is quick. Fickle personality, though. Certainly worth having a little look at anyway. You can sometimes see expected goals actually might be quite a good sign here. So Mark Adamson of Middlesbrough. Wow. Oh, he's in his... Yeah, that's not really the kind of player we... Yeah. Unless you probably played him on this side, on his correct foot, perhaps. Who's he wanted by? Watford. It doesn't seem like the type of player we'd probably need right about now. Anyway, average minutes per goal. Obviously, he's vastly up towards the top there. Shots on target. Always a nice little stat to see if there's anyone that stands out. It's the same kind of players that keep coming up on these ones, really. Conversion rate is obviously quite important, but only if they've got a decent amount of goals to go with that. Temunushkov, though, 25% is very, very strong. Middlesbrough have got some interesting players up on this one. Free kick goals, of course, Jack Grealish. Izzy Brown's been very strong from penalties. Assists, Regan Booty, of course. 10 more than anybody else. And Guy Porteous as well. That's important. He's the 4th highest. That kind of got under the radar, just how good Guy Porteous has been from a creative standpoint this year. Kwame Poku. No way, he's a real guy, isn't he? The regens, they had the cutout, so I just figured it was a regen as well. Surprisingly few regens, apart from Noah Chilvers. No, he's not. He's a real player as well. Okay, interesting. That's a strange one. Let's, where are we? Ooh, assist per 90 minutes. I mean, look at that. That's insane, actually. Really, really impressive from him. So there's that. Key passes, obviously, Regan Booty, vastly ahead of anyone else. Darren Tyra, again of Derby County. I wouldn't mind pillaging. Wow, he's a striker. I mean, whoa, look at that. He would cost a lot of money. Money we just do not have at this point. And, you know, signing players from English clubs, generally speaking, is extremely expensive. That's why I tend not to do it when I can. But sometimes you never know. The right deals can come up. Keep passes per 90 minutes. Regan Booty vastly outstrips everyone. Clear-cut chances created. That's crazy that he's only created 12 this season. Remember last year, you'd have like 30s on here. So strange. Pass completion. Critchlow, Noble, and Famewo. They know how to pass those balls around, eh? Crosses... Wow. 800 crosses attempted. No wonder he's got so many assists. Jesus, Regan. Man likes to put a free kick in. What can I say? Dribbles made. Danny Quinn again, who is in... Oh, it's the guy on loan from Liverpool again, isn't he? Yeah, what we're talking about. Ryan Noble again. Juan Delgado, but he plays for Burnley. Anyone else? Silko Thomas. Now, he is a regen, but he's a left-sided player, though. Tackling so bad. He's a complete wing-back, but only in name. Like, you wouldn't want him to actually do any of the wing-back part of wing-backery, you know? Let's see. Offside, Sam Smith. Oh, there you go. Oh, it's a real guy as well. On the defending side of things. Tackles won. Regan Booty's also won more tackles than anybody else. This man has been a workhorse. One of the things I'm going to look for when replacing that left side, eventually, is pure stamina and work rate. Because they're gonna have to have the most possible stamina and work rate in order to play that role. It's actually an insane... They're basically doing the job of 2 people. And Regan Booty is the kind of guy that will do that, but he only just about gets away with doing that, really. Let's face it. Darnell Fisher is the most tackles per 90 minutes. Should have some different players coming up on this one. Malcolm Boxall. Okay. 14 and 16. There is a guy I've got on loan from... Not on loan, on trial from Arsenal called Peter Phillips, who's got like 16 and 17 on these. He's just got lacking a bit of the physicals, but I might take him on a free anyway, just because he does look like he's got some solidness to him, quite frankly. Anyone else? Goals in a mistake. Wow. Kem Campbell, 4. And Sean Morrison, I mean, he's 34 now. So there's that, I suppose. None of our players on. Oh, Henry Lawrence with 2. That's surprising, actually. Even Regan Booty's not cost many as that. Hey, key headers. I mean, really, it would be a case of just looking for another centre-back, but like when you've got people like Noble on here, it's just... Lee Udgren. He's not bad, actually, is he? Playing for Rotherham. Good potentially pace and acceleration, strength, aggression, bravery. Only 20, 12, 14, 14. Positioning, solid. Okay. He's interesting. He's probably the only player I've seen that's like, okay. And the reason I'm mainly interested there is because there actually could be an element of him being affordable more than anything else. Nick Pope, obviously the best goalkeeper in the league, but Ziga right up there too. Clean sheets as well. Like, he's right on the cards with those guys as well. So I'm pretty pleased with those guys. Right, let's do a little bit of actual, slightly more in-depth analysis, if we can. In case you were wondering, this is Peter Phillips, by the way. He's on, trial from Arsenal. You can see 17 passing, 16 vision, good teamwork, decent-ish work rate, off-the-ball decisions, composure, first touch. Anticipation's a little bit low, but balance is solid. Technique is good. He looks really good. He's just lacking some of the physical stuff to go around it. But if he's just going to be pure deep-line playmaker, that stuff isn't as important as you might think. So he's definitely an option that I would look to potentially bring in on a free transfer this summer, particularly as, like I said, he's completely free and has some even if he's not going to play for us, I feel like there's definitely sell-on value for a player like him. So, hey, more on that later. So, centre-backs, minutes played, it's basically been these three. I mean, I know that Henry Lawrence counts that, and Charlie Good, to a certain extent, has definitely played some minutes. Ewan, less so. So, interceptions per 90 minutes. For Mayo, definitely the best, by like a considerable amount. The man gets some interceptions. I wonder why that is. Is it the height, perhaps? Tackles won, though. Good, certainly up there, but they're all relatively over a reasonable. There's no one that's like super low down, which is the key thing for me. This is the thing. Lacazette Roche at 1.2, like they're all around about the same, and then Ramoni Cristiano-Noble is vastly lower, and I think that's less to do with. I wonder if it's because we've got him as a stopper, and it's causing him to. I don't know. It feels like because he's the one that always plays in the middle. And I feel like that's probably costing us here. And I wonder if maybe having him on the stopper role actually isn't the right idea. Or maybe just having a flat back three with, say, just those three all being just on the same defensive role with him still being a ball-playing defender might be the difference here. As we'll actually look when it comes to the passing, because I think that will be more telling of that sort of thing, to be fair. So, team conceded per 90 minutes, though. You could see that Good were definitely worse with Charlie Good in the team. It's undeniable. For Mayo, slightly worse, but then these two really do control things. Headers per 90 minutes, Ramoni Cristiano-Noble. The man's a don in the air, for sure. Henry Lawrence obviously struggled. They're okay, though. They're fine. Key passes per 90 minutes. You can see it's not that much higher, though. For a ball-playing defender, he doesn't make that many more passes, frankly, or key passes than someone like Lacazette Roche, to be honest. Assists, it is slightly higher, but that's probably more from like set pieces, to be honest. Team scoring per 90 minutes, round about the same. These two definitely dominate this. It really is the two double-barrel boys, and then, ironically, despite Akinfenwa getting better ratings, he seems to contribute less for the most part. So that is kind of interesting as it goes, but whatever. He does make a lot of interceptions. Maybe they rate interceptions higher. I don't know. And I think there isn't one for key tackles that you can make because, let's face it, nobody bloody makes them. So there we go. Goals as well. I mean, look at that. He's definitely done well. And, I mean, Firmino should have scored at least once this season. So that's disappointing to see him not contribute. But I'd say that Cristiano-Noble has kind of carried them a little bit. Like, to be fair, he's done a stonkingly good job. So the way I'm looking at it now is we've got three excellent centre-backs. They're not super old either. Like, 26, 25, and 19. They will all be here next year as far as I know. It'd be weird to leave at this point. So, with the fact that Charlie Good is a little bit older and isn't getting game time, I think my big plan for the centre-back spot will probably be to, if we can move Charlie Good on, to do so and bring in like a younger centre-back who's not going to start, but is good enough to potentially cover should we need him to, but has long-term potential, even more than one perhaps, long-term potential to be a starter in the future. I think that's the way I want to go with it for now. I'm going to make a note of that. Right, on we go. Let's move on to... let's do right-backs first, because it's a bit of a strange one. So basically, it's James Bree, Ryan De Silva. You can't really count Henry Lawrence in this. I don't know how many times he actually played there. Oh my lord, look how many different positions Lawrence played for this. Yeah, he only played 4 times there. Didn't play that badly there, in fairness, but yeah, that certainly wasn't his role for the year for sure. So really, we're comparing James Bree and Ryan De Silva, and I expect Bree to come out on top on everything, but I'm curious to see if he actually does, to be fair. So, Ryan De Silva, more interceptions, much better tackles ratio, wins less tackles overall, and we do actually concede less goals with him in the team. Way, way worse in the air, though. And that is a genuine factor. Cross completion is worse. Chance creation, around about the same. But Bree is definitely more for the key passes. Dribbles a bit more. Creates more assists. We score less, though, with James Bree in the team. But our PPG is higher. And that is quite important. His XG is vastly better. But he's overperformed it. But the fact that he's at least actually contributed this season. I still think that Bree's the better player. In terms of overall. Like what we've actually seen from him. But... I think that this is a position that we absolutely must be looking into because we're so thin on the ground here because Ryan De Silva's alone and James Reece 27 to the point where he's not going to get any better, really. At best, he will continue at the level he's at, and I don't know if he's Premier League quality so far. So I feel like we need to try and find a first teamer in the summer, and I will spend where I need to make that happen, and probably even a young backup to go with him as well. I think 2 players in this role might not be the worst idea for the summer period, just looking at what we've got here. Eventually, one of these days, we're going to find the perfect player for this role. It's just a bit niche, so it's going to take us a while, but god damn it, I'm going to try. So that's what I'm going to do for that. As for left side, I mean, it's Giles and Regan Booty, but, I mean, there isn't really a comparison to be made between the two. Is there any way I can just, like, knock these two together? Yeah, here we go. So, Regan Booty, more interceptions. Tackles one slightly worse, and in fairness, does win more tackles, Ryan Giles. Fair enough. We concede a lot less, though, with Regan Booty in the team, insanely. Slightly worse in the air. Cross completion's definitely better. Chance creation is ludicrously better. Doesn't like to dribble as much, but let's face it, when you're creating this amount of chances, who cares? We score more with him in the team. The PPGs, though, are identical. Booty's XG's been very, very tiny, and I would have liked to have seen him score once this season. I feel like he deserved a goal as it goes, but this is what I'm talking about. Ryan Giles is not good enough to play Regan Booty's backup right now. I just don't really like him when he's in the team. He just lacks the defensive side of things a little bit, and he hasn't really shown a lot going forward either, if I'm honest. So for me, Booty's still going to start. I'm going to keep going with him. I love him so much, and I feel like you can't drop a player after having the season of their career at this point, can you really? I mean, you can, but I'm not going to. But I do want to find a young backup in that wing-back role, and it shouldn't be too difficult to find someone who's not there yet, but can get there. Ryan Giles was more of a, oh, he's available, let's just fill the gap kind of thing. We've got time this summer, although less time than we would have had, had we been promoted automatically, over the next couple of seasons to start sowing the seeds for the Regen Youth conveyor belt, basically. You know how I like to get that started. Those of you that have watched my saves before, you know, once we get a little bit of moolah going, we start getting the older, the youth conveyor belt going, and that's when the fun really begins. So definitely left back, young backup. So a lot of players have played in this role. Really, we're comparing the likes of John, Lawrence. This is an interesting situation for us, really, because there's so many options here that Ollie Ewing's a real player on trial from Leicester, but he's not going to be coming back. Peter Phillips is the one I'm really interested out of this. Like, there's a lot of players we have here, and a lot of these guys you'll see just are not actually central midfielders. It's just because of the way the game at the moment, like, actually, Alex Finn is a central midfielder as it goes, but people like Giannini, like, he's not a central midfielder, but the game will refuse to, yeah. I wish there was a way you could set it so it's only natural central midfielders, but you can't, unfortunately. It's a really hard one because it's basically been John and Lawrence for basically every single match where we can, with the exception of the occasional performance of O and Clarkson, Bate a little bit, and Smith very, very rarely with Michelle Miller. So John's coming back, Lawrence is a permanent player. I feel like this is a part of the team where, as much as it looks like we have depth, but I really don't think we do. So De Silva won't be here next year, Bate won't be here next year. So that's 2 less players to potentially cover that role for us. Matthew Smith I'll try to move on because I don't like him particularly. He just hasn't really performed for us either. Leighton Clarkson I don't think is ever going to make the cut here. So really, that just kind of leaves us with Niall John and Henry Lawrence, because O is not a central midfielder. He's an attacking mid. We all know that. So this is an area where I think I do need to start bringing some players in. Again, it'll be one of these situations where I'll look for a starter. If I can't find the perfect guy, I will persist with Niall John and Henry Lawrence, but I'll try to find someone who I think I can turn into a starter. Because as much as we do have cash, we still can't compete with the big teams. We still need to look for gaps in the market to try and bring in young players and develop them ourselves to try to, polish a diamond or, polish a bit of a rough diamond up occasionally. I like to do that type of thing. We may well have to. So I'm going to use my new scouting filters, which I'm hopefully going to make a big pack of as well for people to download, but it's going to take me a while because there's a lot of roles in this game, I'll tell you that. So yeah, I think that's what it's going to be basically. Look for a first team player for both roles really, and then just see what we can find. If not, try something a little different. So one of the areas of this team where I really think we're actually pretty stacked is through the middle, as far as the advanced midfield roles. So with Low Everton and O this season, they are so good. And we'll have them both next year. They're both of a reasonably good level, 3.5 stars. Low Everton's got more room to grow. Oh, we have no idea about, but let's face it, the guys going to. I want to see how they've matched up against each other, though, that's for sure. And with 2 of these guys, they're both, one's on loan, fair enough. So I still want to look for a young, high potential guy for that role, potentially. But it's not like the be all and end all. We don't have to do it this summer. That's what I mean. So that could be a next summer project if we're going to get extra cash, depending on what league we're going to be in as well, because that's still a factor. Let me see if I can find a role that will compare the 2 of them. Okay, perfect. So, O, better with interceptions, but obviously, they're in a shadow striker role, so it's more about the attacking contributions as well. But Lowe does make more tackles. Well, he wins more tackles. O actually wins more tackles overall, but again, that could have been skewed by him playing deeper sometimes. We concede more goals with him in the team, to be fair, but he's better in the air. Cross completion's better, but, you know, how many crosses is he really putting in? Key passes, though. Low Everton, more creative on that side. Dribbles a bit more too, which does make sense. He's more creative. That is for sure. We score more goals, though, with O in the team, and his PPG is actually higher. To be fair, I wonder what his XG per 90 minutes is, because he's overperformed his XG, but by about the same amount as O's overperformed his. And he's only just outscoring him per 90 minutes. Hits the target a little bit more, and he does take a few more shots, which will definitely help with that. What I'm noticing here is that O isn't quite as quick, which is ironic, really, considering he can play as a deep line playmaker. He seems to be more of just a pure goal scorer than Low Everton, which is so strange when you almost sort of subconsciously think about them as the other way round. But Low Everton does have that extra dribbling ability, which really does factor in. Like, that's more than twice the number of dribbles per game. Gets him into those higher positions. It means he can take a man on, which means either he can get past his man and get a shot in, or, and I think this is what might be part of the issue, the good thing, he drags more defenders towards him, which allows him to then pick a pass to he's able to provide a higher quality of pass to provide more assists, perhaps? I don't know. Whereas O is easier to close down, so he can't find those passes as easily. Still, super happy. Might look for a youngster for the future, but I don't think it's a real concern of mine just yet, if I'm honest. As for the right side, it's a very straightforward one, really, of Porteous, Lostak, and Innes. Now, obviously, Lawrence did play there once, and let's face it, he did spectacularly, but that was a complete fluke. I think we could all agree that was a bit of a fluke. I want to see how Porteous compares to Lostak over the per 90 minute stats. That's kind of what most interests me here, because obviously we can all agree Porteous has had a great year. 14 in all comps. Very, very pleased with that. Contribute 5 goals. Maybe he could have had more as it goes. Like, Lostak's certainly been able to perform above his XG. So, let's take a little look. Porteous, much better in the tackle, and does win more tackles. But we do concede less, ironically, with Lostak in the game. But maybe it's not a big enough sample size. I don't know. He does have that aerial presence, but look at that. 8% cross completion to 20. That is ludicrously different. Porteous with better key passing. Dribbles are about the same. Porteous with more assists. It's like Lostak doesn't provide cross-like assists. He provides a very different type of assist. I'm seeing a lot of flicked-on headers, potentially, from him to either the striker or the shadow striker. That seems to be a way that his game has developed so far this season. We score a lot less goals with him in the team, though, and the PPG is vastly higher with Porteous. So he does shoot more as well, actually. Kind of interesting. And scores, he's definitely scoring more. He's better in front of goal, but it feels like Porteous is a more creative player. They're sort of different options. Lostak feels like the type of guy that's going to score you goals, potentially. Although, let's face it, 3 of those goals were in the same game, where he also got an assist in there too. So out of his 10 goal contributions this season, 4 of them were in one game. So maybe that's sort of skewing it slightly. But Porteous is more creative, for sure. And the reason for that is quite simply because he can put better crosses in. Whereas Lostak seems to be more of a out-and-out finisher, which is interesting considering he only has 9 composure and 8 finishing compared to Porteous, who has 11 and 11. So you'd expect Porteous to do better there, really. I think he's actually underperformed in front of goal this season. I would have liked to have seen him, based on this sort of approach, maybe grab himself more 6 or 7 goals this year. But hey, we'll settle for 5 when he's generated 14 assists. Can't really knock him for that. So I still think it's the type of role that Porteous needs a backup, and I don't know if Lostak's long-term going to be that guy. It's crazy to think that Porteous has been here this long, played this many games for us, and is still only 21 years old, and still has 5-star potential in this team, which is a really good sign for me that he can continue to max that out and continue to improve. And I still feel like Scotland caps are on the horizon for him one day, just not yet. But I think, again, young, high-potential right-sided winger, maybe even 2 of them, wouldn't be the worst idea to just try to get something going to give him a bit of competition for that in the future, because I don't think Lostak's ever going to reach a level where he can actually give him a proper run for his money, particularly not as Porteous continues to develop as well. But we'll see what happens when this is sort of more concrete, when he sort of reaches his sort of 22-23, when the white star part disappears. So I still think young, high potential for right side as well. One of the other things it's important to realise as well is also this Jordan Crook guy on trial, but he's inverted, and he's on trial from Liverpool, potentially mercenary personality. Not sure exactly about him. Like, there's some interesting stuff about him, but he's also got a weak weak right foot, and I just don't think he'd really suit what we're trying to do here. Couldn't really play through the middle either, so not sure about him. Plus the mercenary personality as well. Probably want quite high wages. One of the things that's important to realise is that obviously the abilities are based on the players at our club, so it might just be that we have a really weak squad and we're placing too much emphasis on the star ratings. That certainly could definitely be the case. But we can only sort of do the only way we'll really know that is if we're able to find players that are consistently 4 and 5 stars all of a sudden. then we'll know that actually our squad was weak and we needed a big of a revamp, and we may well do that, but we can't do that in one summer. Next year is just going to be a case of sign where we can, try to get a few players that I think will definitely strengthen us overall, and try to plan for the future just in case we were to go down or struggle, because next season's going to be a struggle. Make no mistake about it. We're not going to just dump into the Premier League and come 9th or something like we did with Whitport, I think it was. That's not going to happen with Bolton. We're going to be fighting a relegation battle next year, and I'm quite looking forward to getting stuck in and really fighting for every single point, because the heroes are going to need to step up and be counted. We're going to need more of those Stoke away game type, Stoke at home performances next year in the Premier League if we are to stay up. Right, let's check out the final one, which is, of course, strikers with my man Temenushkov and Ryan Cassidy, essentially. So, yeah. Annoyingly, Sonny Low Everton's in there too, and so's Petr Lostak. Actually, to be fair, Lostak can. That might be why he's better in front of goal, because he technically is a natural striker, even though he doesn't really have the attributes for it. So, this stuff is completely irrelevant to me. So is crosses. Key passes, I'm kind of interested to see which ones are... That's interesting. That's very interesting, actually, that Golston's provided so many key passes per 90 minutes, although it isn't over a large amount of games. Temenushkov, though, much better at linking the play up than Ryan Cassidy, surprisingly. Dribbles a bit more, too. Cassidy's still ironically better at providing goals, though they actually have provided the exact same amount, and we score roughly the same with them both in the team, but you can see massive step in the right direction as far as we concede way more with Ryan Cassidy in the team. That does show you, though, like when he plays, we're just not as good, and it shows particularly on the points per game. But he still contributed a nice amount of goals for us this year. I can't knock him for that, and he doesn't half shoot a lot. Not quite to the 66% here, but it's nice to have two solid strikers. Now, obviously, if I find an absolute don this summer, then I will take the plunge and maybe spend some money there. But it's hard to... Because I just feel like Temenushkov, 25, he's very good, but at some point, he's not going to be good enough, and I worry that the Premier League might be a step too far for him. We'll have to see. He's certainly not going anywhere, and neither is Ryan Cassidy for that matter, but I definitely feel like we need to take a little step and have a little look to see if we can find anyone that can fill that role a little bit more. But still super happy with his outcome this year. 26 goals from an XG of that. Obviously, the strikers, if they're having a good year, will always overperform their XG, but it's good that he was getting a decent amount of it anyway. Like, that's the key thing for me, is he was 26 goals this year is phenomenal. Really, really happy for him. So, yeah, that's going to be that, basically. That's strikers as well. So, word of the day, word of the day, word of the day. The word of the day is black grape, because I've got this vape juice on my desk here. It's a new flavour, and it's kind of alright, actually. I've got to be honest with you. So yeah, if you can use black grape in a sentence, don't know how you'll be able to get that one into one, drop that in the comments as well. So, if you've enjoyed this, and I hope you have, and you're looking forward to the season in the Premier League next year, no matter how difficult it's going to be, and it will be very difficult, drop a like, that'd be awesome. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, that'll be sick as well. Stream on Twitch, you already know that. So, yeah, come join me over there as well. And I'll see you guys tomorrow for some Premier League goodness, hopefully. We'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.